guys, welcome back again for another video. If you haven't watched my latest video, I did record the summer devotional for the day, and the next video we will be discussing day 70 and 71 as we wrap up this summer. I'm so excited that fall is around the corner. As y'all know, that is my favorite season, and it also gives me a reason to dive into thriller books, which is why we are here to discuss the latest book that I read that was actually a thriller and suspense. So before we do that, I did in my other vlog I did discuss that I read Rebecca Searle in 5 years. I liked it. I would give it a four out of five. Like I had mentioned, like if you're into books like The Time Traveler's Wife, if you're into that kind of writing where the writer goes back in time, like she writes in the past and she writes in the present, and sometimes she writes in the present and sometimes she goes into the future. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you're into like romance, you would definitely like that particular read. I enjoyed it. But I'm starting to become a fan of Rebecca Searle. I read 2 novels by her. One Italian Summer, which I loved. I loved that book, and in 5 years. So I enjoyed both of those reads, and I wouldn't mind reading another book by her. So without further ado, we are going to dive in the book I just recently wrapped up called The Banker's Wife by Cristina Alger. Okay, so the blurb is a page-turning, plot-twisting international thriller of the First Order by Nelson DeMille. Okay, so The Banker's Wife by Cristina Alger. This is my first read by this author, but overall, guys, I truly enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it so much that I actually went to the library and to see if they had any more books by her, and they did. They had another book by her, so I also rented that book out. So that is safe to say that if I did that, it's safe to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this book. So before I get into some details, let's just read the synopsis. We're going to read the synopsis, and we're going to read the biography of the author, just so we can have a little background of the book. Okay, so the synopsis. On an early morning in November, a couple boards a private plane bound for Geneva, flying into a storm. Soon after, it simply drops off the radar, and its wreckage is later uncovered in the Alps. Among the disappeared is Matthew Lerner, an insider at Swiss United, a powerful offshore bank. His young widow, Annabelle, is left grappling with the secrets he left behind, and as she begins a desperate search for answers, she determines that Matthew's death was no accident. She soon finds herself into a terrifying cat and mouse chase on the run from his powerful enemies, who will stop at nothing to hide the truth. Meanwhile, ambitious society journalist Marina Turno has finally landed at the top. Now that she's engaged to Grant Ellis, she will stop writing about powerful families and finally be a part of one. Her entry into the upper of New York's social scene is more appealing than any article could ever be. But after the death of her mentor, she agrees to dig into one more story. While looking into Swiss United, Marina uncovers information that implicates some of the most powerful men in the financial world, including a few who are too close to home. This story could also be the answer to Annabelle's heartbreaking search and save her life, if Marina chooses to publish it. Okay, guys, so that was the synopsis. So a little bit about the author. Her name is Cristina Alger, and that's a picture of her in the back. Okay. Cristina Alger is the author of The Darlings and This Was Not the Plan. A graduate of Harvard College and NYU Law School, she worked as a financial analyst and a corporate attorney before becoming a writer. She lives in New York with her husband and children. So it was interesting because midway reading the book, I just happened to, because mind you, like I told y'all, this is my first book by this author. So I had no knowledge that, she used to be an attorney, and, she had all this background in the things that were discussed in the book. So it made sense. I was like, oh, okay, that's why she knows so much. Because when I tell y'all, when it comes down to thriller, usually like the thriller books I've read, it includes like somebody actually somebody, homicide, foul play, somebody is getting, unalived, somebody uh gets kidnapped or robbed. It's always like in that kind of boat. More of the books that I do read in that genre. But this book was very interesting because in the prologue, it starts off with these with a few select people boarding a private jet, and then next thing you know, the jet like it vanishes, like it just falls off the radar, and the people that were on the plane are nowhere to be found. They don't know where the bodies are, none of that. So it was interesting because the book, even though it contained a good bit of characters, but it wasn't hard to read because it came from two different point of views. Like, so the main two characters, which was Annabelle. Annabelle was the wife of Matthew, which he was one of the bankers that so-called disappeared in during the plane crash. And I'm not trying to spoil anything because they shared that in the synopsis. I'm not trying to spoil the story because I do want y'all to read the book. So so Matthew is Annabelle's husband, and Marina, the other main character, she is a up and coming journalist. She writes for this really huge publication, and her mentor, which name is Duncan, something horrible happens to him in the story. Like, he gives her inside information, and the next thing you know, he winds up dead. Like, he winds up dead. So as you can see, these two women, they don't know each other, but because of the people they're connected to, they become the two main characters in the book. So I loved how the author, because the numbers weren't chaptered, so the story was told between Annabelle's point of view and Marina's point of view. So you got her version of the story, and you also got Marina's version of the story. Mind you, these two women never meet in the book. Like, they never meet, but they have people linked to them because Marina, as a journalist, she's trying to get to the bottom of the truth, like why her mentor, like what happened to him, and all this corruption, all these things that are going on with these offshore bank accounts, with these powerful people that people are like really afraid to expose, because these are powerful people, y'all. We talking about terrorists, the mafia, the mob. Like, we talking about powerful people that can really do dangerous work if you get in their way, so. And Marina, she becomes aware of that, so she has her team of people working with her to get to the bottom. As to where you have Annabelle, she just simply is looking for closure, because she just like, one day her husband is there, next thing you know, he gets on the plane, and next thing you know, she got a detective coming to her door saying that her husband died in the plane crash. But mind you, they couldn't find the body. At first, they couldn't even find the crash. So she did her own investigation because she felt stuff wasn't adding up. Like, even like when the detectives like was giving her details about like the plane crash, and like, okay, who was on the plane, come to find out the other person that was on the plane with him was linked to one of the people that was laundering money in one of these secret offshore accounts. So basically, guys, like the book centers around power and money. Like, a lot of people, a lot of lawyers, bankers, a lot of important, successful people that are hiding money in these accounts, as to where you got these journalists and you got these other people trying to exploit them. So, of course, as you can see, it's a dangerous subject, because, of course, they don't want to be exposed, because the money is into accounts that is like not being taxed. So, that's illegal. A lot of corruption, a lot of secrets, and a lot of lies. So Annabelle, in her case, she's not even worrying about the offshore account. She's not even worrying about like all of that. She just wants closure. Like she just wants to know what exactly happened, because she always had this gut feeling like, okay, like if the plane crashed, like where is his body? Like, so she always felt like whether the government, she felt like the government, the people that was working with Matthew, his allies, like his in like his work associates, she felt like everybody was just hiding something and she really didn't know who to trust. So there were incidents in the book where she was going through stuff, and people and like stuff and like lies were getting exposed to her, like exposed to her. And you also have Marina's point of view. She's trying to, not only is this a story that will be groundbreaking and change her career, but she's also engaged to this guy named Grant. And Grant, so her in-laws, so basically Grant wants her, eventually he wants her to quit her job as a reporter, because Grant's dad, which is Marina's father-in-law, soon to be father-in-law because they're engaged, he's running for president of the United States. So he plans on announcing it soon. So they're doing the campaigns, getting everything, getting the ball rolling. So Grant feels like, okay, yeah, my family is going to be in the public, in the limelight, and I need you to be on board with that. Like, I need you to step forward and help us, because it's going to be a lot of meetings, a lot of traveling. So she feels like, so she's basically stuck, Marina's basically stuck between a rock and a hard place, because so basically her in-laws and her fiance is like really pressuring her into choosing like her career, excuse me. They're like really asking her to choose her career or them. Like, you can't do both. You can't do both, because we're gonna be too busy. Because your soon to be father-in-law is running for the president of the United States. So we need you, hands on with that project. So, but mind you, her mentor, the guy that she was working with the paper, he ends up murdered. So of course she's looking for her own answers and her own story. So you got Annabelle, her fiance, her husband, excuse me, has disappeared. They're telling him that he's unalive, he didn't make the crash. Okay, but the details were very etchy. And then on top of that, like, they were trying to close the investigation really, really fast, y'all. So that was another red flag. She was like, okay, y'all not gonna investigate. Like, they were just trying, they were trying to like make it like an open shut case. So that was a red flag within itself. So she did her own investigating. Like, she didn't rely on the police, the government to, find out clues. Like, she did her own investigation and became a detective, okay, throughout the book. Like, she didn't back down, even though it was dangerous, and she really didn't know what she was expecting, and she really didn't know what kind of people she was dealing with until you get into like the middle of the book. Then you realize that a lot of dangerous things are happening behind the scenes, and you realize that she really didn't know what her husband was involved in. And I think it was to the point where he didn't realize it was dangerous, but he got too deep in before it was too late. So but I will say, overall, guys, 5 out of 5. I give this book a 5 out of 5. Like I say, I loved it so much that I went to go get another book by her. This is and mind you, I just rented this book off a whim. Like, nobody referred this book to me. I just happened to be at the library and I just picked it up off on a whim, and I'm glad I did. And I went into it blindly. Like, I had read the synopsis, when I picked it up, and I was like, that sounds interesting. And it was something I never read about. It was like a different topic, because I never read about a book based off secret offshore bank accounts and all that kind of corrupt stuff. I had never read a book like like focusing on that subject. So I was like, it sounds interesting. At first I was like, I hope it's not boring. But don't get me wrong, it did start off slow. The character development was really good, but I think like the first it was slow, but it wasn't boring. Like it wasn't a snooze, but the character did a really good job. Like with the the author, guys, the author did a really good job with the character development, like really sharing Annabelle's world and Marina's world. They're two different women from different backgrounds that don't know each other, but the story is being told through both of their eyes. So I really feel like the author executed the book well. And of course, you had your plot twist when something was going right, next thing you know, here comes a hiccup. Or when Marina or Annabelle was coming to like close to an answer or a clue, next thing you know, there's a hiccup. So it does keep you on the edge of your seat. It was an easy read. I finished this book in 2 days. And I did fully paperback, and the book um is 341 pages, so it's not bad at all. But yeah, guys, I would definitely recommend it. 5 out of 5. And another reason why I had read it is because I knew a thriller would get me out of my slump. So yeah, there's another reason why I had read it, and I'm glad I did, because it was worth it. It was really worth it, and I'm so excited to read her the next book that I had rented from her. So yeah, guys, The Banker's Wife by Cristina Alger. 5 out of 5, baby. 10 out of 10 will recommend. If you like thriller suspense, I really feel like you would enjoy this book. So before I wrap up this vlog, guys, I did mention that I'm going to read Death of an Author by Nettie Aquafor. I found out how to pronounce her name, because at first I was torturing it. And I actually checked out a review on this book, and the review I checked out, they raved about this book. So I'm excited to read it. This is not a thriller. From the video I watched, they said it is giving more of like a sci-fi kind of vibe. And that's interesting, because I don't really read a lot of sci-fi, so I'm interested to dive into this one. So the next 2 thriller books I will be reading, this is actually our next book club read. I'm the host for the next one. And because it's fall, I have wanted to pick a mystery, of course. So we will be reading A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. This is her debut novel. I do know that she had another novel that just came out, but this is her debut novel, A Flicker in the Dark. So we will be reading this throughout the month for our upcoming book club next month. And the next one, You Shouldn't Be Here by Geneva Rose. Y'all know I'm a big fan of Geneva Rose. Like, she is like the queen of thriller suspense. And my cousin said that she recently wrote a fantasy book. So I'm interested about that one, because, she said she gave a disclaimer because fantasy is like really out of her comfort zone, and she's not a fantasy writer. So it's definitely a book that's she's out her comfort zone. So I might check that one out. So You Shouldn't Have Come Here. I actually have this one on audio too. So I do plan on reading this one also soon. So yeah, guys. So that wraps up the end of this vlog. So yes, The Banker's Wife by Cristina Alger. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5, guys. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. What are y'all reading? Like, what are share your fall reads. If you have any thriller, suspense, romance, whatever floats your boat, share in the comments so I can check it out. Okay, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next book video. Bye bye.